Welcome to another episode of THOOTO Talks. I am your host, Kecha Dumisho Sepoga, and today I am sitting with a corporate transformation expert with over 15 years of experience and has worked with over 500 corporations. Listen, if I was to, list all the things that he's done, there would be a whole podcast episode. So please help me welcome Sbusiso Nkosi.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm good, man. It's always a pleasure, to sit with people and share information. Hopefully, this is going to be insightful.
100%, 100%. So I'd like to start with your background and maybe starting with your university experience. You went to a UP and you studied economics. How was that?
I did. You know what? I was not supposed to study economics. I was supposed to study something else. So, first year, my father said to me, go study becoming accounting.
Yeah.
I said, dope, right? Because my marks in accounting in high school were actually quite good.
Yeah.
And I did first year, and then I was like, this is not the accounting that this is not gonna work for me, right? So I was looking for something different, and there was this guy by the name of Fisto on campus, and then so he was friends with another friend of mine, but he was one of the colder guys because I think he was studying his honors. And I think he heard us complaining about accounting. Then he said to us, why don't you guys try economics?
That's a lot, but
Yeah, it's like he even says that he says because it's easier. Okay, it's because it has job opportunities and whatnot. But you guys need to graduate with some kind of degree. You're from Mamelodi, this one is from Rampur. That's going to change your lives. So hop on to economics, and I enjoyed it. I loved it. There was something called the theory of economics that tells you the history of economics, where it started, where it is right now, different economists, your Adam Smiths and whatnot. And I really fell in love with that. So, yeah, I studied economics. So my varsity life went longer than it should because apparently is giving me problems. I'm switching courses, but yeah, eventually I graduated with a BCom in economics. Yeah, it was a good fun experience.
and now you're at TUT. You're a lecturer of entrepreneurs. And tell me the kind of skills you see emerging within young entrepreneurs in your experience.
So pitching is becoming more important than ever, right? Pitching. What is I? Oh, pitching. Yes, so right. Because as an entrepreneur, you pitch every day. Yeah, every day, 24/7, right? So sales and pitching and business development and getting deals. I think that's something that we are now putting an emphasis on. It's a missing critical skills amongst young entrepreneurs, right? People are struggling to sell. People can ideate, they can conceptualize, they can put their business profiles together. But anything that has to do with selling, including your business proposals, that is where we're actually having issues with small businesses. If you can't sell, you don't have a business. You have a business idea. So, yeah.
There's no execution, really.
There's no execution. You're not making money. There's nobody who's saying you don't get even feedback on your product, right? Because people have to buy your product and give you feedback. So that means you are just sitting with a business idea. And that for me, I find it to be a little bit problematic.
No, I get that. And speaking of execution, you've written an article on, thought leadership content, and I would imagine that's like a form of execution. So when it comes to professional growth, what role does thought leadership fit in?
Thought leadership is very important. And I got my executive position quite young, right? My first executive position quite young. I was 35 when I was given that. And it's not because of my qualifications, not necessarily because of my experience, it's because of my thought leadership.
Oh, okay, okay.
So thought leadership gives you, it elevates your status in a sector. Okay. So let's say you are in the accounting sector. Yeah. And instead of just going to work and coming back home, a new legislation comes out, changes, tax and whatnot. And you are one of the first people to write about how that's going to impact corporate, small businesses, individuals, households. That's when you become a subject matter expert and a thought leader because you're constantly putting that information. So what it does is while your company treats you as a manager, industry sees you as somebody who's elevated in their status because you're a thought leader, you're a subject matter expert. What that does is that it really places you higher when recruiters and companies are looking for you. So people are no longer looking for you for management positions because you think like an executive, you write like an executive, you understand the impact of policies on the economy.
that puts you at the level of somebody who should be in executive management.
So you really elevate your status. That's why thought leadership is important.
Does it only elevate your status externally? What if there's internal, let's just say like there's an internal leadership or an executive? Does it play any role?
Internally, it's very problematic.
Internally is very problematic, right? Because sometimes people are stuck in their ways. They'll say, yeah, we see Sbu is writing articles, right? But your contract and your job description says A, B, C, and D. So people will stick into that. So they'll acknowledge, say, hey, we like the way you write. But where it makes a difference for you is externally within industry, right? Because the moment you do, when I started doing thought leadership, radio came knocking because they want, it's just like you went through my article and you were like, hey, we have to speak about this in the podcast, right? Same situation. TV comes knocking because now you are the subject matter expert. Radio is knocking, publications are knocking, please write this for us, please do this. So it's simply because of your thought leadership on LinkedIn, you know, that you get in that position. So the external forces, they see you and they're like, wow. But somehow people internally, there's still this thing of saying, okay, he was on TV, then what?
Yeah, your job description says you must go sweep. You get what I'm saying? So internally, I think we still have a long way to go. But externally, definitely for sure, it do elevate your status.
So in that situation, then how would you then change that perspective? Like how do you change that to make sure that thought leadership content also plays a role with how you progress within your career and the company that you're within?
Yeah.
I'll give you two answers. Number one, I wouldn't change that perspective. They don't appreciate you. Get your thought leadership on and go where they appreciate you, right? You've put yourself in a position where you are poachable. People are poaching you because of this content that you're posting and you appear on TV. Go to those people, they appreciate you, right? But from a corporate transformation perspective,
If you were to say, okay, let's give it a fair chance, let's put it on the table.
let's discuss it. Let's not completely dismiss it. I think I would make sure that a thought leadership program becomes a formal part of personal development at work. Okay. Right? So HR can sit down with you and say, okay, let's get you to become a thought leader. So that it can fit into succession planning of this company. You sign a formal contract with your HR manager. On a weekly basis, you improve your thought leadership, right? But now, HR as a department also has a contract with the executives to say, we want to start feeding people into a pipeline of succession, and we have this particular program of thought leadership mentorship within the company. So every week, we're going to give you reports. How Sbu is improving in terms of his thought leadership. He's putting articles out there. He's getting media attention. So he's getting to a point where he's becoming an influencer in the industry, right? And we want you executives to acknowledge that as a very critical skill so that when you are planning for the future directors, you can consider everybody who came from this thought leadership program. So we can sort of like formalize it so that it can work internally.
So if I'm understanding correctly, you basically say that thought leadership should be a program within the company itself, right?
Yeah.
And that should be a determinant as to whether you get to the next level. Oh, okay. Now, Nick, that's pretty interesting, right? And do you think thought leadership has a place beyond LinkedIn?
It has a place beyond LinkedIn, right? But LinkedIn has made it easier. Oh, okay. So let me tell you, like, for example, my story is when I started writing on LinkedIn, I was writing about, because I got into the broad-based Black economic empowerment sector. That was my first job, company called EmpowerDex. So I was a guy who was responsible for going to these large organizations and basically auditing if they comply with broad-based Black economic empowerment. So obviously, I see things that are shocking, right? I see fronting, I see people that they're saying they're managers, but I interview them, they're not managers. I see loopholes and how they are being exploited. So I wanted an outlet to speak about all of these issues within this policy. But I'm a junior staff member. Yeah. So you reach out to a newspaper, they're like, who are you? Your credentials don't. Speaking about. Exactly, you get what I'm saying? You try to send an email to an editor of some newspaper, they're like, oh, great subject. Then they bring the expert does the subject. So now, what do you do to show your thought leadership if these big boys won't give you a chance? LinkedIn, because your LinkedIn is yours. You create it. You control it, you write your articles. So that will always be your starting point. And like I said, if your LinkedIn is good enough, hey, I'm here on the podcast, right? Hey, TV wants me. Hey, radio wants me. Hey, newspaper. So it is that door for some serious thought leadership, because that's how I got invites to conferences as well, which is a big part of thought leadership. If you can go to a big conference, right? So LinkedIn opens that door for you as a professional to place yourself, or for you as a small business to place yourself, and then it can flow from there.
And going beyond like thought leadership, a lot of people in HR and in recruitment tend to look at what you post on social media. From an organization's perspective, why do you think that's important?
It is important because let's speak about LinkedIn in particular. I don't want to get into other social media platforms. Yeah, maybe we'll touch on that. I don't know. But let's speak about LinkedIn in particular, right? So your CV does not speak for you. Your CV looks like my CV. Become economics, become economics. 5 years, 5 years. Nothing special. Experience, experience. Maybe we work for different companies. One thing that will differentiate us is the fact that you on LinkedIn, when you are putting out content, now it starts to speak at how smart you are. Me, I'm not putting out that content. So when HR zooms into that, HR of a different company, they're going to inbox you. You're like, hey, that one, because companies are tired of. That's why we call it talent acquisition. Companies are looking for talent. They're no longer just recruiting. You understand? So who is talent? Talent is somebody who does not come in, get a paycheck, and go home. Talent is somebody who's immersed. You got what I'm saying? You are in your you are deep within. Something new comes up, it's you who's posting about it. There's a loophole, it's you who's posting about it. Of course, HR gets interested in stuff like that. So we want to inbox you now and then we want to poach you. Even the directors of the company, they'll tell you that your screenshots are flowing around, bruh. Like, yeah, in companies that you can't think of. There's traction. You understand? So it's very important. That's why they look at that kind of stuff. The other social media platforms, they're looking to see if you are a well-behaved person or not. And in most cases, people are not well-behaved.
That's excuse me. That's interesting that you say that. Oh my word, sorry. It's interesting that you say that. Because it's just like one other question that I had is that do you believe that once you go beyond the candidate position or candidate process and now you're an employee,
Yeah.
do you think HR should have policies that dictate what the employee posts on social media, even if you're not a representative? Even if you're not posting as a representative as the company.
That is a difficult one, right? Because there's always this thin line, and it's so funny. I was speaking about it on TikTok, where there seems to be this blurred line of whether your LinkedIn account belongs to you or it belongs to your employer, right? And where do you get that creative sort of like freedom, right? So I had issues when I was a director in one of the companies because as a director, I'm in the documents of the company. So my LinkedIn is sort of like linked to the company, right? But there's no clear policy, around that. So we had a little bit of a, debate when it comes to that. And I think now with young people, also they're doubting, like, what should I put on LinkedIn? What is my employer going to say if I put out a statement like this? I don't think there should be clear policies. I think people should be left alone.
Okay.
Your LinkedIn profile is your LinkedIn profile. I think unless you're speaking, you see, there's policies that says don't bring the company's name into disrepute.
Okay.
That then should be defined. You understand what I'm saying? There are certain things that you should not write in connection to that. But if somebody wants to give an analysis of a new policy, it's their LinkedIn profile. Let them do it. And that otherwise becomes too regulated. We're going to regulate everything,
That's a problem.
That is a problem. Even with you, one day they're going to tell you need a license for a podcast. What are you going to do? You are censored. You understand? So I think people should just be left alone, but they need to operate within the labor laws. Just don't bring the company's name into disrepute.
Completely, because I guess from my perspective, I'm sort of looking at it in a sense of like maybe on LinkedIn I would understand maybe why there's some sort of like policing, but when it comes to like platforms like Instagram and TikTok, I don't think you are in a position. You're not presenting yourself as a representative or kind of idea. Yes, so you're representing yourself. So with regards to certain things, they can't necessarily be an overlap that's reached unless you explicitly say yes. You know what I mean?
Yes. But like I said, my brother, it's still there are people that know that you are an employee of that company and you are doing a get ready with me video and it starts with you in your underwear.
That's been an issue.
You get what I'm saying? You are client facing. You understand? So you don't have to say I work for Sbu Pty Ltd. But this is my TikTok. It's just me. I'm a representative of myself. But if you are walking around with underwear, and at the end of the day, I still expect you to be client facing. You see, those lines can be blurred. You know.
That actually brings me to my next question, which is like, what are the red flags that scare away recruiters?
Get ready with me. Get ready with me video. It's a problem. We are constantly speaking about it, right? As directors, as recruiters, and what. There was a huge debate on TikTok about this. Yes. And then I also actually, one of my first articles on my blog when I started my career blog last year, Career Emporium, I think one of the second article was the underwear saga. Why your TikTok content might make you lose out on opportunities.
Speak to me more on that.
You know, it's exactly what I'm saying. It's get ready with me. It's like underwear is not private anymore. You remember the days when underwear was private? You even a bra strap, you're not allowed to see, right? But these get ready with me videos, they start explicitly with somebody in their underwear, and what I'm saying is that could limit your opportunities if we become fair, right? Is it fair to be judged on that because it's your own TikTok? You see, now we're gonna get into this conversation of fairness and not fairness and whatnot. It's preference. For me as an employer. We're a big brand. There's certain things that we represent. And when I see somebody with a get ready with me, as an employer, right? There's something called an employer brand. My employer brand is I cannot accept that. But there are people that could accept it. You'll never know, that say it's not a problem. So it's not a policy or regulation per se, but it's preference. I do not prefer people who don't find underwear to be private anymore. We've become desensitized to that. So your get ready with me video starts with that. It's a huge red flag for me. A second one is how you post yourself in a social setting, right? I'm happy people are adults. People do consume adult beverages. I don't have an issue with that, right? But if 4 of your videos back to back is you tripping all over yourself and falling and all of that, you get what I'm saying? It's not a policy. There's no law against that. You can do that, but preference.
Brings the company, it might bring the company's name into disrepute.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Preference. You understand what I'm saying? So one day we're gonna have a big
debate maybe with another company that's our competitor, right? And that's going to be the weakest spot where they hit us. We're like, when plus your employees, they drink and then they fall over and you're like, damn it. We opened the door for that, you understand? So it's not a law, it's preference. And then I think the same thing with LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn, you are on your, it's your account. You're not representing the company. People make a mistake and they think when I'm on LinkedIn automatically, because in my experience I've written that I work for such and such company, I represent them. No, you still don't. It's still your LinkedIn account, right? You can post whatever it is that you like to post, but employers, from an employer branding perspective, they've got their own preferences.
I get that. There's a lot of nuance when it comes to it. Exactly. So just to move on to your triple B initiatives. Right. So earlier on this week, you spoke about how, when the WSP and the ATR should include a measurement of the amount of black people that's aided into senior positions, right? Or higher positions in life. So for someone who doesn't typically have like a good grasp on triple BE, what impact do you think this change would have on transformation within organizations?
It's bull. So let's simplify it, right?
In broad-based Black economic empowerment, triple B-BBEE, there's an element called management control. Management control measures, so you get points on your BE scorecard, right? Number of black people in junior management, there's a threshold percentage that you're expected to achieve as a corporate, right? If you achieve it, you get 2 points. Black women, 2 points in junior management. Senior management, you understand? So basically think of junior management, middle management, senior management, executive management. You are expected to reach the percentages. I'm not going to get into those percentages, right? Then you get points based on that. Okay. Now the problem is, if you just take any black person because you are chasing points, right? And you're setting them up for failure, right? So you just get anybody and you're like, guys, we need points for senior management. And they're like, just take Sbusiso and just put him senior management there. From a PE perspective, it gets you your points.
Yes.
But from my perspective, you literally took me from junior management and you've put me in senior management. So you did not help me. I might be earning more, But in the long run, this thing is going to hurt me because I'm now sitting in a senior management position, but there was no succession planning. But if you take your WSP and then you take your annual training report and then you said, this is Sbusiso's plan, you don't need to rush and put me senior management today. Take me through the process so that you get the BE points, but I also get to succeed in that new role. So your workplace skills plan basically says, this is a plan we have for our employees. The annual training report says, this is a training that we've put to make sure that Sbuso gets there. And we have a 5-year plan for Sbuso to become in executive management. Then we both win. So I'm saying that should be big part of the point. That for me should be higher points to show that you've made me successful than if you just put it there.
In that situation, is there no way of even like falsifying like, you know, the results?
You can.
Yes.
That's the problem. Every policy is vulnerable, right? Because even with this senior management position, they falsify the results. The current BE codes as they are right now, you can falsify the results, right? How many times have you heard of a gardener who is a 51% shareholder? And the gardener didn't know until the police came, like, I didn't know I was a shareholder, right? But they got away with it for a very long time. So you can falsify information. It's a vulnerability of the policy from a procurement perspective everywhere, right? But then that's why the BEE verification, the BE verifier, that's the guy I used to be, is the one who has to do a thorough analysis. So I have to sit down and investigate the workplace skills plan, the annual training report. Then that's so that you're claiming got training. I need to sit them down. I need to have a conversation with them. I need to tell them, are you familiar with this certificate? Apparently, that's your name here. Did you study this? How are you feeling? Then I can write a report that says, I do believe that they've gone through the succession planning and therefore I'm willing to give these points. Rather than when they are sitting up there, because that one is easier to falsify. I change your contract, legit, and call you a senior manager. I increase your salary, legit.
Yeah.
I'm there only for 1 day. And you are excited to be a senior manager. I'm only there for 1 day. Because the B certificate, you renew it after 12 months. Next time when I come after 12 months, I'm hearing that you have been booked off because of mental health issues. Because nobody prepared you for senior management. That is the worst situation for me. And that's what we're trying to curb when I'm saying succession planning should carry more points on the management control scorecard in BEE.
100%. No, I hear that. I hear that. Like, so thorough analysis is definitely. And earlier on, you were saying that there's a lot of loopholes within triple BE, or, you know, corporations tend to exploit. And, you know, one of my colleagues was telling me that you said that you've been there from the inception up until here. You know, so one thing I want to understand is like, I want you to do a comparative analysis with you. Like, how is it now versus how it was then? And have those loopholes been like, you know, amended?
No. Yeah, that's a straight answer. The straight answer is no, right? So the BE codes,
2006 when I joined, they were still draft BE codes. So basically, we're still testing what's happening, right? 2007, they became enacted, and then there's loopholes, right? And then 2013, we had the first major amendments to the BE codes. They tried to deal with the loopholes, but the loophole is not sitting in the legislation itself. The loophole sits in the audit process.
Okay, speak to me more on that.
So the codes are saying, let's go back to the example of the employment equity. The codes are saying, you need to make sure that you have the right number of black women, colored women in your junior management. Let's take that as an example, right? So this is what your statistics should be. 30% should be black males, 40% should be Indian males, 60% should be, you understand what I'm saying? Now, that is 100%. That's what the policy is saying. The audit process, because somebody needs to audit that,
Yes.
right? Because now you are claiming, you are saying, okay, as a company, we got all of our statistics right. Now, the auditor walks in there, looks at all of the contracts signed by the employees, and the contracts are saying senior management, senior management, senior management, senior management. Looks at the pay slips, and the pay slips are saying senior management, senior management, senior management. Oh, okay. You give the points. There's something wrong with that audit process. Because how far do you go in terms of really interrogating if I'm highly satisfied beyond the contracts that have been signed and the documents, that Sbu truly is a manager. Because what if, yes, payslip is fine, contract is fine, but at meetings, there's no policy that you even contributed towards as a manager. They want you to sit there and just shut up and be quiet.
Yeah.
For me, that's not a manager. So I should give you no points for that.
Yeah.
But then because we just check the documents and the pay slip, we're like, aye, it's fine. So the problem is the audit part of it. The policy has good intention, but because you must remember, there are accredited BEE verification agencies that have to go and audit. So that's where the problem lies for me. It's not a policy, it's not a legislation. So you can find loopholes because of that.
No, I thought that genuinely thought it was the legislation that was a
No,
contest. It was a
Concept audit is the auditing process. So the auditing process is the one that, for many years, you get shocked that when this person said their company is 25% black code, that 25% was actually the gardener. How did nobody pick it up? Because you read the shareholders agreement.
You're like, okay, 25%, 51 share certificates. This thing is fine.
That's interesting. So in that situation, it's just like, how do you then fix that?
Empower the auditor.
Yeah.
Empower the auditor.
Give them some sort of like incentive.
Give them a manual that is very clear in terms of what they need to do, and then allow them to have recourse as well, right?
Yeah,
So let me tell you what one of the problem is. An accredited BE verification agency is a profit-making company. Okay, the auditors are profit-making companies. So let me tell you where the battle now starts. Okay, let's say you have a verification analyst like me, because I used to be a pit bull in this thing, right? I wouldn't accept contracts and payslips.
Just look at them like that.
I would be like, bring Sbusiso in.
Yeah.
And I would say but chief, I'm getting a feeling you're not making decisions. Oh, tell me one process that you changed. No, I haven't changed. And then I'd be like, nah, this Sbusiso one, no points.
Okay.
So even though the documents are right and the payslips are right? No points. I'm done. Now I take the file to the office and I say to them, listen here, to my manager who needs to sign off the certificate. I'm saying, I did not give them points on Sbusiso. And then my manager says, yeah, the client called and they were not happy with the fact that you did not give them points for Sbusiso. And they happen to be our biggest client.
So there's a conflict of interest essentially. Like you focus on profits, but at the same time, it sort of taints your moral nature and ethical nature as verification. And the here so tradition.
Thank you.
Simple as that, you understand?
Interesting.
That becomes problematic because then you're going to say, instead of losing the client, this client pays our rent for 24 months.
Yeah.
Based on how much we're charging them, we're not going to let Sbusiso become a problem, right? Sbu, let it go. The contracts are fine. We can sign it. It's okay. I'm not empowered. So empower the verification analyst so that they become a pit bull. They can close those loopholes and say, okay, I have to think outside the box here, right? I can hear Sbu is giving all of these answers, but I'm still unsettled. Yes, the payslip is right, the contract is right, but I'm uneasy when it comes to this conversation. Sbu's English is not even that much, but they say he sits in these meetings with executives in Njani.
That have a lot of jargon.
You get what I'm saying? So empower the verification analyst. That's what we call substance over legal form.
Substance over legal.
Yes, the legal form, which is the document, says yes, but the substance, something is not right with the substance. Empower verification analysts to be able to audit based on that and seek some kind of recourse or not give the points. And the technical signatory, the one who's going to sign, get them out of conflict of interest so that they can say, Sbu, as an analyst, I do believe you. The story that you are giving me about that guy, we go together. We're not going to give points. Don't let it be a conflict now when the verification analyst puts a file on the table.
Yeah.
Right. And the last topic that I want us to cover is, integration of township businesses into supply chains, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a law student, right? And one thing that I understand about, processes is they're very lengthy, right? So To what extent does like that affect like the procurement processes with regards to integrating like township businesses into supply chains?
Yes. Okay. So the BEE codes, they have an element called enterprise and supply development, which includes procurement, right? ESD. So the aim of ESD is to make it easier for you to get into a supply chain of a big corporate, right? So basically, the essence of ESD, according to BEE, is we cannot expect you as a small business to submit the same kind of documentation that require when a big business signs up to become one of our suppliers, right? We must try and make it easier for you, and we must give you capacity. So basically, if to put it bluntly, they're saying we want to replace all of the big guys with the small guy. That's what the codes are saying. But support the small guy so that they can get in there. So basically, lower the barriers to entry, lower compliance, lower red tape, give them money, so that they can be able to service the contract, right? Because sometimes before you start a project, you need money, So empower them, give them a little bit of money or give them access to loans or something like that, support this guy to get in there. Because once we start getting them in, our supply chain, it becomes now inclusive because the small black businesses can play into that space. So the codes have written that nice and clearly, right? Again, we might have an implementation issue here and there, but the codes are very clear. Look for a small guy, give them support and capacity, whether it's training, compliance, funding, whatever the case is, right? Get them sorted, lower the barriers of red tape, get them into the supply chain. And supply chain, start them small, month-to-month contract nyana, to see if they get it. Because I mean, like, you're in a different world right now, right? You used to supply a corner shop there, but now you're supplying a big mine. You understand? Yeah, so try them, see where the processes are. Maybe, okay, now he does not know how to invoice, also cash flow is always a problem because every time we give him a contract, he needs 50,000 to start. He never has that 50,000. Instead of kicking you out and saying, they must give you further support. Okay, let's build you. Let's see. You know what I'm saying? So, okay, now you can handle month-to-month contracts. Give him a 1-year contract, bump it up a bit.
As opposed to just like throwing them into a deep end and now it affects your efficiency as well.
It's just like that promotion thing I was talking about, where you take somebody from junior management to senior management without any support or mentorship.
Loopholes in the same concept applies.
Same loophole.
And I guess one thing that I
I
think
think
I've
I've
learned
learned
from
from
you,
you.
well,
I've
actually
actually
learned
learned
from
from
you
you
is like
substance over form and actually being intentional. That's it. Digital notation. That's it. Nah, that's fantastic. Yes. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you so much to everyone who's watched. And please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Teja Dimisho Sepoka, and thank you so much.